Your home or office facing a public space, log on to jamaicai.gov.jm today. Jamaica Eye, we're all connected. The Ministry of National Security, creating a safer and prosperous Jamaica.
What can a little germs do?
Pink eye running belly, even flu. Germs can make them happen to you.
Put germs and manners with these. Cover your mouth when you cough and sneeze. Always wash your hand with water and soap. Keep dirty hands from your eyes and your nose and your mouth. You don't want to be sick, take care. Practice every day, no germs round here. A message from the Ministry of Health.
So who keeps our taxpayer money in check? Well, the PAC and PAAC help watch over the country's budget. And one might sound like it just have an extra A, but they're way different. Here's how. The PAAC and PAC are two committees that watch the money. The Public Accounts Committee reviews government projects after them close. They do a post-audit check to see what problems arose with the costs and call officials to explain decisions that cause budget mismanagement. And then they recommend corrective action. So the problem will happen from when, not happen again. But what about the money we are spending right now? The PAAC. That's how Public Administration and Appropriations Committee pretty much means how your money will protect as it happen, we check. While projects go on, things are fair accurate. As government spend the nation's budget, PAAC reviews it. They examine proposals and summon officials to find problems before them don't use it. So the PAC and PAAC are two parliamentary committees that watch over the country's wallet to protect the budget and keep it in check. And you can get involved. Just visit jampja.org.
In Jamaica, there needs to be one law for all. Every member of this society, regardless of profession, finances, or the area you live in.
I have some bad news.
The company didn't get the contract?
The money they paid us for it has gotten out.
Are you serious?
I'm afraid so. And I understand that there are going to be corruption charges.
Minister, please come with us, sir.
Breaking news. A senior politician and senior civil servant have been charged for corruption.
Thank God not all of them stay, sir.
Build integrity. One law for all.
A message from NIA.
Peace begins with us. Every act of kindness, every step towards understanding brings us closer to a brighter tomorrow. Let's choose unity, compassion, and hope. Together, we can build a future where peace reigns.
Brighter tomorrow starting today.
I invite members online to turn your cameras on for the duration and to mute your microphones until the chair invites you to speak. Please turn your cameras on. Thank you so much. I wish to acknowledge online the Honorable Juliet Cuthbert Flynn, Mrs. Heather Miller Bennett, Mrs. Andrea Perkis, Mrs. Natalie Nita Garvey, Senator Rosemary Bennett Cooper, Senator Shireen Golding Campbell, Senator Donna Marie Scott Motley, Senator Keisha Gay Kiwit Anderson, and Senator Dr. Maziki Wadada Tate. In the chamber, in person here, I wish to acknowledge Honorable Favour Williams, Dr. Angela Brown Burke, and Mrs. Yvonne Rosemary Shaw. We also have present technical persons here from my ministry and from the Parliament, who we will acknowledge and ask them to identify themselves or to introduce themselves later on. At this time, let us commence with a moment of prayer, and I would ask Member Rosemary Shaw if she would lead us in prayer. Thank you.
Precious Lord, as we are about to commence the proceedings of this afternoon, I am humbly asking for your grace. I am humbly asking for guidance and protection, and most of all, for wisdom, knowledge, and understanding. We're here to do the people's business, and the business of the people of Jamaica is foremost on our agenda. Lord, I ask you to guide this meeting, and at the end of it, we can all say it was good for us to be here. These and other mercies we ask in your precious name. Amen.
Thank you, Member. Thank you. At this time, I will invite the clerk to the committee, Mrs. Douglas Beckford, to record apologies for absence. And if I may have those names. Thank you. Okay, we haven't got any formal apologies. Are you sure? On the list were signed? The signed list.
But some of them are here because she's here.
Mm-hmm. We have apologies from Ms. Tover Hamilton and Mrs. Darren Pepper.
I'm not sure she didn't confirm. Mrs. Bennett is here.
Mm-hmm. Rhoda Crawford. Mm-hmm. So the record shows that we have apologies from Ms. Krista Lee, Ms. Tover Hamilton, Mrs. Marissa Dalrymple Philibert, Ms. Rhoda Crawford, Ms. Carencia Morrison, Ms. Denise Daly. Yeah, those are the apologies recorded. Thank you, Madam Clerk. So at this time, I would ask the representatives here from the technical, well, maybe I'll wait until later when others arrive, and I'll have those introductions done. So in the meantime, again, good afternoon. My fellow women parliamentarians from the House of Representatives and the Senate, or dedicated partners who are online and representatives from local government and other agencies who may have joined us online. In the shared commitment to progress and unity, in the establishment of this bicameral caucus of women parliamentarians, it is with a profound sense of satisfaction and heartfelt gratitude that I address you today as we convene the meeting of the Joint Select Committee. Since its formal establishment, following the approval of the motion in the House on December 13, 2022, and its subsequent endorsement in the Senate, this caucus has stood as a testament to our collective determination. It unites women in leadership across both chambers and all political parties as it functions as a sessional select committee. It will serve to foster solidarity, enhance women's representation and leadership, and advance gender-responsive approaches in our legislative work. And this is a historic occasion because usually committees like these are not sessional committees. They are treated as ad hoc committees, but we were able to get the approval of the House to have this committee, this caucus of women parliamentarians from both sides of the House and from both houses to be recognized as a sessional committee. It means that we're in the budget. We want to have a seminar, we want to have a retreat, then Parliament will have to facilitate that. We don't have to pass the hat to buy a cup of coffee. It unites women in leadership in both chambers and all political parties as it functions as a sessional committee. It will serve to foster solidarity, enhance women's representation and leadership, and advance gender-responsive approaches in our legislative work. I recall with clarity the foundational weekend training retreat held on December 3 and 4 in 2022 at Moon Palace Hotel in Ocho-Rios, St. Anne. In that very relaxed setting, we engaged in open and honest dialogue supported by parliamentarians, and the cost of that retreat was borne by parliamentarians, UN Women Multi-Country Office Caribbean, and the Bureau of Gender Affairs and the Houses of Parliament. I pause to welcome member Marlene Malahoo-Fort. Thank you so much for coming. At that time, we affirmed the value of trust, transparent communication, collaborative advocacy on matters affecting women and children, and a people-centered focus in our efforts to create a robust and enabling legislative environment. Those discussions laid the groundwork to facilitate consensus building as we applied a laser focus to the important priorities which made the shortlist. This caucus aligns seamlessly with my ministry's national policy for gender equality and the National Strategic Action Plan to eliminate gender-based violence in Jamaica, NSAP GBV 2017 to 2027, and the broader goals of Vision 2030 Jamaica Development Plan. It also benefits from invaluable technical assistance provided through the Spotlight Initiative, the Government of Canada through Global Affairs Canada, through Parliamentarians, through Caribbean Women in Leadership, and the Institute for Gender Development Studies. Join me to extend sincere appreciation to each of these partners for their steadfast support in institutionalizing this vital mechanism. We have witnessed, members, meaningful milestones along this path, including the historic all-female sitting of Parliament on February 21, 2023, which welcomed young women aged 18 to 25 and served as a powerful prelude to International Women's Day. Those young voices reminded us why we do this work, to open doors wider for the generations coming behind us. So today I invite you to join me to reaffirm the core functions of our caucus, namely, facilitating robust networking among relevant stakeholders, building solidarity by applying intersectionality to honor the lived experiences of the various groups, promoting constructive cross-party dialogue on critical issues, providing sustained opportunities for professional development to strengthen our capacity for gender-responsive leadership in the legislative process. Jamaica now stands alongside other parliaments worldwide which have established bicameral women's caucuses and reaped rich dividends for their nations. Our continued efforts will yield similar dividends, transforming laws, transforming institutions, and lives in ways that promote equality, safety, and inclusion for all. I again pause to welcome Member Denise Daly. Thank you so much for making it. Colleagues, the challenges we address remain urgent, yet the opportunities before us are inspiring. Let us proceed with the courage, the compassion, and unwavering commitment that have brought us to this point, working collaboratively to shape a more equitable Jamaica. I want to thank you for those members who were a part of this process to take us to this point. I want to thank you for your dedication and presence here this afternoon. To the new members of Parliament, we welcome you with open arms. And may we continue to be guided by purpose and unity in service to our nation. I now welcome us to proceed with our agenda in the spirit of shared resolve. At this time, thank you for the applause. At this time, I would like to urge members present and online to make your contributions, and together we can build out an agenda and issues and matters that we will address. This body is the parliamentary body that will look at the gender agenda and matters impacting on our women, on our girls, on our boys, and our men. I would like to invite all members present in the chamber and those online. You could make your input at this time and make your remarks. I also want to acknowledge the presence of the Most Honorable Juliet Holness, Speaker of the House, who is online, who has joined us online, and Ms. Nikisha Burchell. I thank you so much for making yourselves available to join us. Thank you. So I would invite members at this time to make your remarks. Those online, please show your hands if you wish to make an input. Dr. Angela Brownberg, I will call on you. I'm going to lay hands on you as one of those who was there as part of the work that was done. And then I'm going to lay hands on the speaker, Mrs. Juliet Holness, afterwards, because we were there together to get this going. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. We have done, as you have said earlier, significant work to get us to this point, and you have noted some of the things that make this unprecedented. And so as one of those individuals who participated in that groundwork, I want to thank you for your leadership in this. Parliamentarians, UN Women, they were phenomenal in their support, not just of the retreat, but certainly in terms of technical support that they gave us during our deliberations. There are a number of individuals who are in the House as well as online who were part of that discussion. I too remember the retreat, and I think we made some progress from there. I believe that what you said earlier is absolutely true. Our task is going to be to ensure that we are able to create safe spaces for truth and courage, that we are going to be able to acknowledge the opinions of all and the space for it, to see it from the other perspective, so that we can arrive at a place where we are all comfortable and where we all think is in the best interest of those that we serve. You know, it's easy to talk about. The training part is always easy. The focusing on gender equality is always easy, but sometimes it becomes difficult when there are other aspects that we also have to consider. We have acknowledged, both in our meetings and in private spaces, the challenge of the political lens, and I am certain that all of us here are committed to really seeing the issues through the lens of gender equality, which is really what we're pushing. And so I'm looking forward to that kind of discussion as we build the trust, create safe spaces, as we do the necessary legislative reviews that are required. I know that the rest of Jamaica is looking to us to make sure that we move swiftly with some of the reviews that we have started. I know after this we do have the Joint Select on the Domestic Violence Act, and there are several other pieces of legislation, because one of the things that we don't do well, generally speaking, is to do post-legislation review. So once we have passed legislation, to go back and look at how it is performing, what is happening, so that we can do review and make changes to make it more relevant. So I'm looking forward to us being able to do more of that kind of work. And both those of us who have been before and those who are new, building also the relationship amongst us as a group, so that we are better able to work together and to understand each other.
Thank you so much, Dr. Brownberg. I would like to invite the Most Honorable Juliet Holness, Speaker of the House, who is online. Madam Holness, could you please invite you to make your comments?
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope I'm being heard. I've turned my video on, so I hope I am being seen and heard. Minister, could you confirm, please?
We're hearing you okay? We're hearing you, yes.
All right.
Yes.
Thank you. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the new members of the caucus. I join with our chair, Minister Grange, and colleague Angela Brownberg in the sentiments raised earlier. I'll not repeat. I continue to appreciate the work being done both by CPA and parliamentarians, and enjoy the fact that over my limited tenure, I do note that more and more female representatives are being placed in a position to serve both in the Senate and as members of Parliament, and have actually started to take up significantly more leadership roles, both here in Jamaica, across the Commonwealth, and even in the institutions of the CPA and Parliamentarians. I will say, however, that building trust is a major challenge, and it will continue to be a major challenge, and creating that safe space for openness and open dialogue. And this I find coming from some of the discussions we had before, and the fact that we continue to remain very tribal and are very often used by the men to fight against each other as women. I believe that issues of revisiting legislation, continuing to look at our legislations through gender lens is a critical one. And I'm hoping that in this term, we are able to add a real look at what is happening with AI and cybercrime, because I find as a female, it is highly targeted to women, one, and women in politics, number two. I can't fathom how I could ever be on Melissa Silvera's title, someone I've never met. And when you see posts like that being sponsored, you wonder who sponsors them. And so building trust for me and sitting down and having discourse in respect of some of these legislations really is going to require that we genuinely, as women, and I'm being specific in terms of gender, make an effort to start being our sister's keeper. So I am going to ensure that I also put myself in a mind frame to wipe slates clean and to open myself for having that trust, for making sure that I also create that space and open my arms and hope that together we can genuinely work in the interest of us as women within the Parliament and for our wider population. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker. Thank you for your wise words. At this time, okay, I want to acknowledge online, the presence online of Senator the Honorable Kamina Johnson-Smith, welcome, and Mrs. Zalika Jess. I'm really very happy at the turnout. In fact, there are 19 members of this caucus, and I think we are at an attendance 19 members of Parliament and 7 senators. And I will give you a count in a little while, but I think we have an impressive turnout of MPs as well as senators. And that is that's an extremely good sign. Are there any hands up? If I don't see hands, I'm going to call on members. So, okay. Member Denise Daly, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Chairman. Chairman, it was, I think, 2023 that the Caucus for Women in Parliament here was established. And honestly speaking, I thought we'd have reached a little ahead of even ourselves, because I think we were very anxious at the time. We had a lot of ideas, and we knew exactly what we wanted to do. Shortly after that, when we came back, I recognized that probably we need some cultural shift and some cultural changes in order for us to understand our role as women in Parliament, and more so our caucuses. We tend to go straight between party lines, even when it is staring us in our faces. And we will have to now determine what do we want to get, what do we want to achieve. I personally believe that the female parliamentarians, we need to sit down now and to look at the low-hanging fruits. What we want to do in year 1, what we would like to see achieve in year 2, and ultimately what we'd want to see the caucus look, feel, and to be able to deliver. So I personally is really excited to know that we have really started officially now, and that we are going to look at some of the things that is preventing women from achieving their potentials and their goals, and that we will be able to come together as women, not when it suits us, but that we will stay together, because most of the issues that affects one affects all. So I look forward to continuing with these meetings, these discussions, and to see whether or not we'll be able to take it to the wider society, in the business places, in the schools, in the churches, so that we'll be able to have our voices heard. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Member Daly. I now recognize the Honorable Favour Williams. Please go ahead with your comments, Minister.
Sure. Thank you, Chairman. I would like to register my gratitude to you, Chairman, for the first step that you took in getting us together, us meaning us women in Parliament across party lines, to sit down and discuss very important and sensitive issues as they relate to women. I know that your agenda encompasses girls and boys and men, so it's not just women, but we know that there are special issues relating to women, relating to girls, and I think you've taken the unprecedented step of beginning to erase the political divide on certain issues of importance to women, to girls, to boys, to men. And I hope, as Member Denise Daly said, and others, that we can get to that point where we can unite behind the issue rather than behind the party. Behind our colors when it comes to matters such as sexual harassment and all the other matters that we know are wrong in our society and need to be called out. Many times we remain silent rather than letting our voices be heard. And so I know that we might have not been as active as we should have been as a caucus since it was started. But, it's a journey. And we have to continue to take those steps. And I am sure, absolutely sure, that we will continue to grow from strength to strength, and the stature of this caucus will increase. And we're going to take on those tough issues. I know it. And we are going to define a new reality for Jamaica, for women, for girls, for boys, and for men. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Minister. I would like to call on Member Marlene Malahoo-Fort to make comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I should like to begin by commending you on your leadership in this historic matter of establishing a sessional select committee of the Caucus of Women Parliamentarians. It is one thing to organize a caucus, but another to formulate it and formalize it in the manner in which you have succeeded to do. The representation by women in the houses of the Parliament of Jamaica is now at an all-time high. We have just over 30% in the House of Representatives, 19 of 63 members, and 33.33% in the Senate, 7 of 21 members. I have looked at the terms of reference for the caucus set out at Standing Order 73F, and I note among them the facilitating networking, building solidarity, and promoting constructive dialogue on issues of importance among women parliamentarians across party lines. I also note engaging in advocacy and lobbying on specific policy themes to be identified on a periodic basis in accordance with national priorities. I should like to suggest for your consideration, Madam Chair, perhaps the creation of subcommittees comprising members across the aisles, and we begin by identifying issues within the caucus that may detract from the work that is set out in the terms of reference of the committee. Building trust across party line is something that we all aspire to do, but so many times we fall short of achieving it. Like the members who have spoken before, I remain hopeful. I do believe that we can achieve the goals, and I'm looking forward to working in this caucus. On the issue of lobbying on specific policy themes, I think that is made easier because you, as chair, hold the portfolio for gender affairs. And I know the commitment that you have to this matter will make it easy for decisions to move along the chain from one stage to the next. I also note strategically that you set the first meeting of the Joint Select Committee to review and report on the Domestic Violence Act right after this meeting to ensure that the work can move forward. You can be assured of my commitment and my participation in the process, and I look forward to working with everyone.
Thank you so much, Member. I would like to invite one of our new members of Parliament who is in the chamber here to make remarks. Right? Member Rosemary Shaw.
Thank you very much, Madam Chairman. I just want to add my voice of commendation for this opportunity to be a part of the caucus for women in the Parliament. And I am sure with your guidance, you have the practical experience, and with your guidance, this will be a success. I too want to speak about the matter of trust, because that is where it starts. And as women, we sometimes tend to tear each other down. And, you know, we want to start with the trust factor so that, you know, we can really have a genuine discourse and to translate it right across in the wider society. So you can look forward for my support in this venture. Thank you, and thanks once again for the opportunity.
Thank you, Member Shaw. Could you turn your mic off, please? Thank you. I'm inviting Senator Kamina Johnson-Smith to make an intervention at this point. Minister Johnson-Smith? Okay, she's probably, yeah, she's off. All right. So I would, let me see the list here. Minister Gillette Cuthbert Flynn, you there? You, as the woman in the Ministry of National Security, I would love to get your intervention, get your comments at this time.
Good afternoon, everyone. And let me say huge congratulations, Madam Chair. You have been a huge voice regarding this caucus for women, parliamentary caucus for women. I remember also, I can recall when we, quite a number of us met in St. Anne, and for that fantastic, I would say, weekend, because a lot came to the fore, and we were able to actually form some form of trust. And I think that is one of the key words that I'm taking away from this conversation that we've been having so far, is the trust factor. And I'm a little bit skeptical, I have to say, that we will be able to possibly continue that, because of, we have been somewhat of a tribal society, and it's always in the back of my head. So I think the way forward is to possibly look at, identify something that we really want to focus on when it comes to one voice in the parliament that we can agree with, and possibly fight for that particular cause, where party line will not come in the way. Again, as I said, while I remain hopeful, I am somewhat skeptical, because I've seen some things happening that happened in the past few months where, I did not see that coming together of the women in the parliament when we should have. And so I'm hoping with this, with the vast number of women that we now have in the parliament, that we can fight for one cause and really identify something that we can all fight for. Because I also believe that a lot of persons are looking to us in the parliament to say, we have surpassed that quota of the amount of women in the parliament. However, they're not seeing a difference. And so I think we should all keep that in the back of our minds as to what role can we play as women in the parliament to make that difference. That is my hope for the number of women that we have in the parliament now, and for us to truly make a difference, and for our society to not just see us as fulfilling a quota of women in the parliament and they don't see a difference. They don't see what difference it is that we're making when it comes to our voice, to speak up against for certain things in our society that's happening. And so I would challenge us to not looked at or seen the schedule for today, so what it is that we might be discussing. But I think what we need to do is to find a cause, find something that we can all, persons can see us coming together and fighting for that one thing. And I think that is when the trust factor that we are possibly all skeptical about, that we and society will be able to see that, yes, we have a lot of women in the parliament, but they're actually making a difference. Let us not be seen as this, thing. Oh, it's another women's caucus, but nothing is happening. Because then again, we'll be wasting our time to state that we have a parliamentary women's caucus. Those are my few words.
Thank you so much, Minister. I must tell you, I'm very optimistic because this is the forum that we're going to use to make it happen. And it took us a while to get here. But we, as you indicated, we were able to get over that hump where there was no trust to having some understanding of trust. And we just have to work on it. And, once each individual is sincere. I know it's very difficult because the nature of the beast, the party line, is very much something that we ourselves have to, it's like we're walking on ice, And we ourselves have to be aware of that. The nature of the politics is divisive. I personally didn't want to enter representational politics because I felt it divided. But when I realized it, if you're not at the table, you can't have an impact. And so you had to join one of the parties. But it is for us as women who from our enslaved ancestors were here, it was the women who had to delicately manage the process. They even sacrificed themselves to manage and to balance the process. And so we are called on at this time to do the same thing. And we're going to have to just know to do it. We're just going to have to, we have the skill, we have the intuition, we have that built-in capacity and ability to do it. And we'll just have to work with each other to maintain that balance and to be sincere and to trust each other. And if we have something on our minds, we will say it, we will deal with it, but we must deal with it with the decorum and the level of respect for each other that will be an example to the nation. I want to invite Mrs. Natalie Nita Garvey, who is online, to make an intervention here. Natalie?
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Thank you.
I appreciate the opportunity. Good afternoon, everyone. I'd just like to also express how very elated I am that we have been able to get to this point. Many have tried across the world and have not been able to come together. And through the effort, bipartisan effort, and your leadership, we have been able to get thus far. Like everyone else, I look forward to the work ahead. I look forward to us finding the stick-to-itiveness and the courage to be able to get the work done on behalf of all women across
MP,
Jamaica.
can you turn your mic on, your camera on? Because remember, we're on TV. They can't see your beautiful face.
I can't turn on my mic, my video at this time, based on where I am.
Okay,
I'm trying to do both, but I'm unable to do so at this time.
Okay, sorry I interrupted you. Okay.
No, but that's all right. That's all right. So I'm looking forward, and like others have said, that we find the courage to be able to do those things that sometimes are very sensitive, and where others are a little weary of crossing some lines, that we're not afraid to cross those lines in the interest of those we serve. So I really look forward to being a part of that team, to finding one of my colleagues across the islands would say, down the islands would say, the testicular fortitude to be able to just have the guts and the gumption to stay together, to do what we have to do on behalf of all women in Jamaica. Blessings.
Thank you so much, Member. I can tell you, I'm going to say it again, I'm very optimistic. I recognize the maturity that you all come to the table with, those of us who have been there and done that. And for those of you who are new, I sense a great desire to learn and to understand. And so I'm really very, very positive. And we're going to have issues, but we are going to deal with it in a mature way and in a respectful manner. So I'm very optimistic. What is important, we have a forum where we can have those exchanges and sort out matters as women. And I'm really happy about that. I want to now invite Senator Scott Motley, who has also been there from the beginning, and a voice from the Senate. I want to invite her to make her intervention at this time. Are you there, Senator?
You are muted.
Good, yeah.
Thank you, Chair. I'll have to start over to just acknowledge, thank you for calling on me, and to acknowledge all my colleagues, those in the chamber and online. As you have indicated, I was one of the members who participated in the initial discussions. And I want to say, Chair, how absolutely delighted I was to see that this Joint Select Committee was meeting so early in the term. It augurs very well for our future. There's a lot that women can do to transform a society when they come together. They are indeed the persons who are the backbone of our Jamaican society. We know that over 47% of households are headed by single women. And we do know that we have the highest percentage of women in middle management. So we have to translate that into the work in the Parliament. And it gives me great pleasure to hear the statistics as quoted by Member Marlene Malahoo-Ford, who has acknowledged just how far we have come. There is a lot of work to be done. And I think what gives me hope is that we are all cognizant of the challenges which we face. The issue of trust, the issue of departing from a party position to unite as women is one of those that we have stark reminders of every day. I believe that we can do this. And from listening very keenly to everybody, the recognition of the issues which confront us makes it easier for us to address them and to find ways to get around them. So, Madam Chair, in your powerful position in the cabinet, you impact so many of the matters which concern us. So I know that the requirement to lobby and to advocate is not going to be as challenging as it would be had it been somebody else in your chair. I know that you have always stood up for women and that you take your responsibilities extremely seriously, that you're committed and devoted to the work that you do. To those who are in the Parliament for the first time, I just want to say it can be a very rewarding place, as you are part of building a Jamaica where everybody wants to be, where people want to work, to live, and to grow their family. And I thank you, Madam Chair, for the opportunity to say so, if it pleases.
Thank you, Senator. Inviting anyone else who would wish to make a comment at this time, or I will allow you to think about it a little more while I invite Mrs. Sharon Robinson, who is the head of the Bureau of Gender Affairs, to give us an update on the work of the Bureau as she heads the gender machinery for the country. And out of her presentation, we may have some questions. She treats with the national shelters, domestic violence legislation, sexual harassment legislation, and several programs impacting on our girls, on our boys, and also our men. Separate and apart for a woman, we have a very broad program. So, Mrs. Robinson, if you could just, give us a fairly quick synopsis so members will have an idea of the overall work that's being done, and you may need clarification in relation to certain questions. This is the body that will get regular reports on the work that is being done through the Bureau of Gender Affairs and through the Women's Center of Jamaica Foundation. Okay, Mrs. Robinson, please go ahead.
Thank you very much, Minister. So the Bureau of Gender Affairs is the space within the Ministry of Culture, Gender, Entertainment, and Sport that is responsible for all gender-related matters. And so we are extremely ecstatic that on December 13 of 2022, this very space that was created for women parliamentarians, it made a very important impact on the gender architecture. Because for years we struggled with looking at other spaces, having that voice for women in Parliament and in other spaces speak together about issues that concern women, and making sure that where the political realm is concerned, where decisions are made, and at the head of that space where we have a minister of gender who is so strident, we were extremely ecstatic when we saw that the CWP became a reality, having started off as a bicameral caucus of women parliamentarians. So the Bureau of Gender Affairs provides secretariat support to the caucus of women parliamentarians and does that extremely well based on the fact that the Bureau is an oiled machinery, having been around for several years. We have our raising the tray because of our national policy for gender equality, which allows us to be able to integrate the concerns of women and men and their families into the development paradigm. The National Policy for Gender Equality gave rise to the National Strategic Action Plan to eliminate gender-based violence in Jamaica. It's a long name, so we call it NSAP-GBV for short. It's a 10-year plan, so it spans 2017 to 2027. You would have heard the minister mention the legislation, which is not so new anymore. It was approved in 2021 and became operational in 2023. I'm speaking about our very ambitious Sexual Harassment Protection and Prevention Act. That has been making waves because we now have a sexual harassment tribunal, which is staffed with a 14-member panel, which was sworn in last year, that's July 17. Some of the persons who are in this room were actually there at that swearing in. And on that same day, we also had the pleasure of having 18 authorized members of the Bureau of Gender Affairs who were trained in sexual harassment investigation techniques. They were also given a certificate of designation from our Honorable Minister of Gender Affairs to ensure that they can support in a big way the work of the tribunal. So far, we've had a number of cases, and we have been able to have a review done. We have a robust engagement of key publics through the Sexual Harassment Tribunal. We also have a unit, a sexual harassment unit that was formed essentially to support the Sexual Harassment Tribunal and to be a part of the promulgation of the sexual harassment legislation. Number of key ministries have completed their sexual harassment workplace policy and have submitted. Quite a few of the ministers have made sure that their ministries, through the HR, who has focal point and responsibilities for the legislation, have submitted their policies. And we are so pleased when we were able to share with the minister that we have seen compliance in big ways. There are some sections that are still completing their review of perhaps a draft workplace policy that they had, but we are very optimistic. And like the minister, I have an excellent feeling about the fact that before the end of this year, before 2026 ends, we anticipate that all the ministries, departments, and agencies that have not yet completed their sexual harassment workplace policy will do so, because we have our tribunal that has started the work, and we have the unit that is also working. In addition to having the sexual harassment unit to ensure that the legislation is robust, we also created 3 other units, and that was because we recognize that the work...
Mrs. Robb, just before you move away, I'm not sure if you mentioned how many cases we have so far been reported to the tribunal, and what's the process to deal with, what's the procedure that's followed?
Okay.
Uh-huh.
The number. So,
I think the last time I heard it was about 50 cases.
Pretty much, yes, Minister, about 50 cases.
Between 45 and 50.
Reported. And of the
reported,
50,
yes.
Right, and of the 50 cases that have come to the tribunal, because some of the cases have not come to the tribunal because they are being dealt with at the divisional level, meaning they might have called in to say there is a case, but because we want to ensure that at the HR level it is dealt with first, because the legislation speaks to ensuring that the HR, once the case has come forward, a complaint has been made, then the HR practitioner, whoever it is that has the focal point responsibilities, has that responsibility to inform the person to who has committed the offense, or to whom the case has been brought or the complaint has been registered, to inform that person within 48 hours, and then to ensure that the persons who are a part of that, whether it is just one person who has been aggrieved or it is other persons who have been aggrieved, to call them together to have a hearing or to have a conversation, a discussion, and where possible to have some resolution done at that level. The legislation requires that all local remedies or procedures that are existing at the local level be exhausted before it be brought to the tribunal. But in the event that there is no HR, or there might be other matters in terms of perhaps the person feels as if it's taking too long, or there is something that causes the person who is the complainant to feel as if it's not going to be in his or her favor, then that person can bring the case straight to the tribunal. So of the cases that we've had so far, most of them have come from within the public sector, and some are from the private sector. And the information I saw was that about 60-something%, over 60% of the cases that came have been dealt with, and some are still being addressed at this point. We have our tribunal meeting as often as possible, and those cases would, of course, get priority based on where it is that based on how it is that the information is presented. The idea is that all of the cases are going to be treated with the utmost priority, because there is a zero-tolerance approach to any form of harassment that is done to any person, and based on how the outline is given in the definition, once somebody complains of harassment, then the tribunal has a responsibility to ensure that it is treated with in a swift manner and as swift as possible.
And the membership, the tribunal?
14-member panel. There is a chairperson and 2 deputy chairpersons, and those would have been done in such a way that they are all attorneys at law. The person who is the chair is a retired judge, and he is very learned and very experienced. He has a wealth of experience, having served for many years in the legal system. And he has 2 deputy chairpersons who are also attorneys at law, very knowledgeable as well, and knowledgeable about the legal matters and including sexual harassment. The other members would have come through other entities. For example, how it is broken out in the legislation that you must have at least three persons who are attorneys at law. Then you would have from other entities, justice sector, from labor, gender, working relations. For example, persons who are aware of working relations, union representation, and perhaps worker relations as well, including union. What happens to a landlord-tenant? Because a part of the legislation speaks to landlord-tenant situations. The other piece would relate to workplace, essentially, and then you have educational institutions. So the selection of the members, the minister would have ensured that in selecting the members, she would have looked at the rubric that would allow for persons to be selected based on their expertise. We are happy that all of the persons who have been selected as part of the tribunal have been done, the selection has been done using the criteria. And so we have a fairly good balance of male, female, and we have persons who are very vested in the work of the tribunal and ensuring that when the cases are brought forward, that they are dealt with and persons should feel like justice has been served. Can I continue now? So I was saying for the sexual harassment tribunal and the sexual harassment unit, those are also a part of the gender-based violence space. We also have a gender-based violence helpline unit. And that helpline unit was formed because we have a national shelter unit. And I recall the minister being here in Parliament and ensuring that we announce two lines, at least two lines, one for female and one for males. The males, in some cases, wanted not to speak to a female when they call because they felt that based on their experience, they wanted to have a male listen to them at the other end of the line and to perhaps give the kind of advice, referrals, and so on that they wanted. And so we have a male, at least one male helpline, and the other helplines are responded to by females. That particular unit has responsibility for making sure that if a case is brought forward relating to a matter akin to or directly related to gender-based violence or domestic violence, intimate partner violence, then the specialist on the other end of the line is a trained social worker who would be able to listen to the person who brings the case forward and to respond based on what it is that the person is asking support for or what is available in terms of resources. It could be a warm referral if it is that we are unable to solve the case. It could be that the person is in need of rescue because the person is in an unsafe space, a toxic space, a harmful space, a space where there's danger. And if that's the case, then that is the opening for the National Shelter Unit. We do not allow persons to call the shelter unit directly. They have to be admitted through the GBV helpline unit. Persons are also able to get psychosocial support and counseling. If persons do not wish to go to the shelter because there is restriction of movement, and that's because of the safety for the clients as well as for the staff members. If they do not wish to go to the shelter, then we have additional or alternative spaces that allow persons to be able to be removed from that space where they are not safe and housed temporarily until they are able to move to a space of safety. We work extremely closely with the police, the JCF, under the Ministry of National Security and Peace, and that allows us to be able to brag a little bit about the continuum of care for survivors of gender-based violence. The continuum of care is just what it says. It is a range of service providers that are within one cohesive space because we recognize that coordination is so critical to ensuring that whenever we have a case that comes forward, we need to have all of the parties who would need to be a part of that resolution being on hand and available and accessible. And so our continuum allows us to be able to take that case and to move it swiftly based on what is required and how it is that we would need to have it resolved. And then we have one other unit that would have been a part of that space, and that's our male empowerment unit. Our male empowerment unit is a very critical unit.
Mrs. Robb, just before you go into the male empowerment, just to indicate that the shelter, they are safe and secret spaces. Yeah. So as a result, even when the JCF is involved in that network of moving the victim or survivor, they take that individual to the police station, and the shelter arranges to pick up the person from the police station to the shelter. So no one else has access to taking the victim or the survivor to the shelter because it's a confidential space.
Thank you, Minister. And so far we have, as you are aware or not, 2 operational spaces, and there's a 3rd space that's coming. I know you've been saying, we have been saying this for a while, but it is closer to completion than before. This 3rd space will not be serving as a regular shelter because we already have 2 that are operational. It's dubbed as a transition hub because that will complete that space where you have persons who would have wanted to leave the space, that safe space, that confidential space, but they do not yet have the means or wherewithal to move into a safe space because we do not allow them to go back to the harmful and unsafe environment. And so that transition hub will be that space that is safe, and it will not be as restricted as the one that we have now, the 2 operational spaces. They'll be able to commute. And so if somebody is studying or working, the child is in school, they'll be able to move freely. And that space will allow for training and recovery and all of the things that we can't do with the first 2 that we have because those spaces are highly confidential and for sometimes high-risk cases, and so the movement is restricted. Do I have more time, Minister?
Well, maybe you can take 5 minutes more.
5 minutes. Thank you, Minister. So in terms of legislation, I would just say quickly that in terms of legislation, we have a vested interest in ensuring that legislation is revised where it needs to be revised, or if it wasn't around and there is a need for it to be a part of the space, that we work with our minister to have legislation enhanced. I'm very excited about the fact that for the Domestic Violence Amendment Act, we will have that first meeting today, because that has been a long time in coming, and I know there's at least one person in this room who is very excited about, apart from Minister, of course, that Minister Johnson Smith. She, I recall, was one of the persons who were very strident about ensuring that after the treatment of that first round of Joint Select Committee meetings that we had, we were not satisfied with the treatment of the Domestic Violence Act. And for us, that's a very important bit of legislation because that's the closest thing that women have when it comes to acts of gender-based violence. And so I am very excited and extremely optimistic that the review of legislation and the review that's going to happen continue happening. We are happy that some stuff have been happening before, and we are confident that based on this new round of discussions and this new Joint Select Committee that will meet this afternoon, that we'll be able to have traction. So many times persons call about what is happening with the Domestic Violence Act and what new things are happening. We want to see it get to a place where the legislation is reviewed and completed and or repealed, but at least we would have something that persons can use going forward. It is so important, and to get back to where we started, where we are now meeting as a Joint Select Committee with persons appointed to sit as part of the the Caucus of Women Parliamentarians. I am extremely happy that this is happening, and I know that we are in it for the long haul. We have been supporting, and we will continue to support on this particular, because there are so many things that are riding on this caucus doing extremely well and representing for women. This is the largest space we will have in terms of the number of persons, 19 members of Parliament and 7 persons from the Senate. That is phenomenal. And we're extremely ecstatic. We look forward to seeing a huge shift in terms of what will happen going forward in terms of the paradigm shift, taking the language to the level where it is required, making sure that legislation will see the light of day, and making sure that persons who are perpetrators will understand that we have a zero-tolerance approach to any person who believes that they need to do something that is running afoul of the law, and to make sure that whatever it is that we agree to as a committee, that it will stick. And at the end of the day, we will see justice being served. Thank you, Minister.
Thank you, Mrs. Robb. Thank you. That was quite a lot, but we have handed out a kit which provides information on the different areas, and as we have our meetings, we can delve into the details and have presentations from the officers who administer these areas. We can have presentation from the chair of the tribunal. The caucus can request whatever it requires and whatever submissions it requires. So we will quickly go to procedural matters because we have the domestic violence, the meeting of the Joint Select Committee on Domestic Violence coming up shortly. And I would just move quickly into stating that this committee will be governed by our standing orders. We have I recognize Senator Golding Campbell. Please go ahead. So sorry.
Thank you, Minister. Forgive me for interjecting, but I had to add my own voice of congratulations to you for the work that you have done to bring this committee to the fore. I know that there were other parliamentarians who supported this effort even long before I came into the Senate. And so I want to recognize them as well. I think this is really phenomenal, but I wanted to also add my voice in terms of the mandate of the committee, the mandate of the caucus, because I wouldn't want for the impression to be given that this caucus is dealing solely with women's issues, as much as people can characterize certain things as women's issues. But the truth is that our mandate is much wider than that. Our mandate is to take a look at issues from a gender perspective. So even things like, how we engage state resources to support the business community, for example, and how our women and our men access those resources are things that would fall quite squarely within our mandate. It is really far wider than the issues that simply touch men and women relationships. And so I want to, again, Minister, congratulate you for the work that you and your team have done to get us here. I came late in the picture, but I'm absolutely on board and supportive of this. And I acknowledge my colleagues' comments in relation to the need for us to engage in a respectful way, to tackle difficult issues with respect, and to hear each other, and to, not shy away from tough issues, but to meet them head on. I think there is a huge role that this caucus can play in leading Jamaica to a better way of managing disputes, of managing differences of opinions on matters that don't have to fall between the orange and the green, but that can be far more national and encompassing in its approach. So thank you so much, and thank you for allowing me some time.
Thank you so much, Senator. You have reinforced the point that this caucus will deal with gender matters. And gender, it impacts on our women, our girls, our boys, and our men. And we are up to the task. So as we move into procedural matters, I'd mentioned that this committee will be governed by standing orders. And we can if we wish, invite submissions relevant to our deliberations to come before the committee, written or oral. We can operate in accordance with the relevant standing orders of Parliament, and we can establish subcommittees or working groups where required. At our next meeting, we can really get into those details and some of the matters that we would like to discuss in detail. I would like to establish at this point that because we are a joint select committee, as chair, I can propose for the regular joint select committees, and assist me please, you could explain what is the procedure in terms of the chair and the quorum. Yes. And this is being explained by the attorney, parliamentary attorney here. Yeah.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, members joining in person and online. So let me take you through the standing orders in regards to this particular caucus. Now, Standing Order 68, particularly paragraph M, outlines that the Caucus of Women Parliamentarians is actually a sessional select committee, not a joint select, a sessional select committee. Now, on that premise, when you review Standing Order 77 that speaks to the procedure in select committees, for example, in regards to the caucus, it says, or just to the quorum, it says, unless the House otherwise direct, 3 members shall be the quorum. In ascertaining whether there is a quorum present, the member in the chair shall not be excluded. However, there's an exemption to this in Standing Order 73F. Standing Order 73F specifically pertains to the Caucus of Women Parliamentarians, and it says in paragraph B that the quorum of the caucus shall be such as the caucus may decide. So it is going to be left to the chair and the caucus to decide what constitutes the quorum in this instance, in this specific instance. So it doesn't have to be 3 as outlined in 77.5, but 73F outlined that we can actually choose what constitutes the quorum for this particular committee.
Thank you. So, yes, go ahead.
Madam Chair, in light of that, perhaps we would want to consider having 1 member from each side, from each house, including the chair. That's 5. It's a little ambitious, but I think 3 would be really small for the size of the caucus and the work that we have ahead of us and what we want to project to the wider society, and to just always ensure a balance between the 2 houses and between the 2 sides.
Okay, well.
Chair, you can address that, and then afterwards I will look at 73F2, which outlines the ambit of the caucus. So you can address member for it. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so what I'd like to propose here is that the quorum, we should follow quorum being 3 plus a chair, because I would not want us to increase the size of the quorum and then we have delays in having our meetings. Because I know from time to time to have regular meetings, all members may not be available, but the business has to go on. So I'm putting it 2 members that the quorum could be 3 plus the chair, not including the chair. And then I will also, after that, propose in terms of the chair and the deputy chair. So I made that proposal after.
Madam Chair, I don't know if you want to put that as well. What I liked about the proposal that Member Malahou Fort suggested is for us to build that trust, I believe that we have to ensure that we always have some kind of balance. And therefore asking for one member from each house representing each side, since we only have two sides, that I like that because it allows for the balance at all times. If we can't get that minimum balance, then we have a real problem that we have to talk about, right? Or inside and outside. I think it's minimal, and I think that that is something to strive for, unless you believe we can't achieve it.
Thank you, Member. I will recognize Minister Johnson-Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I greet all colleagues present and apologize for my lateness. I had joined, but internet interrupted my connection earlier. On this point, and I'll use the opportunity to speak more widely on another occasion. While I support the proposal made by Member Malahou Fort, I want to suggest a compromise, because while I agree that we really should be able to get one from either side, from both houses, plus the chair, without difficulty, I do recognize the challenge that you're, at least to start meetings. When you want to be able to start the meetings, you need the quorum. Would it be objectionable to say, to take chair's proposal, but with the qualification to say, but at least one member from each side? So the 3 members plus chair, but 1 member from each side must be among the 3. So that at any point you will have both opposition and government present to start the meeting, and plus the chair. If that's a reasonable compromise, but I would want to hope that we could get 2 from from each house. Thank
you. I'll have a Member Daly speak before I.
While I tend to want to agree with the recommendation for us to keep it at 3. But we have to be very mindful that we are responsible people inside here. And we keep lowering the bar because we believe that it will be able to achieve our goals. We need to set our standard and make sure that persons are held accountable. Once you place yourself on a committee, you should make every effort to come. I want to go with Member Malou's recommendation that we extend it in order that we'll be able to have a balance.
Thank you. Well, I will ask Member Malahou Fort and Member Kamina Johnson-Smith to repeat their proposals. But just before I ask you to do so, I just want to make the point that I don't have any objection to the proposals. I just want to be cautious that we don't tie our hands behind our back, and then at some point we can't convene the meeting because. But I think the recommendations are great. I'm just a little cautious based on my experience. I will recognize Minister Johnson-Smith in this order. Minister Johnson-Smith, Senator Shireen Golding-Campbell, and you wanted to say something to Member Ford? Member Malahou Fort? You want? Okay, fine. All right, so Minister Johnson-Smith, go ahead.
Thank you, Chair. I just want to say that if you have no objection, then I will withdraw my proposal, which was intended to strike a balance between the two positions on the table. If you have no objection to Member Malahoo Fort's suggestion, I think in the context of our press to really make this different, to make this session different, then let us set it at one from either side from both houses. So 2 and 2 plus a chair as proposed by Member Malahoo Fort. And I withdraw my proposal since you had no objection fundamentally to the position put forward. And I hope that in the good faith that we're doing this, that we will all proceed without a hitch, ensuring sufficient numbers at meetings.
Well, we're also being guided. I was being guided by the standing orders, which establish 3 plus the chair. So I think we should bear that in mind as well. If we want, we can say 4. Shouldn't be difficult to get 4 from 26 because the membership is 26. And today we have representation here. We have 19 members of parliament and we have 17 in attendance. We have 12, we have 19 and we have 12 members of the House present and 6 out of 7 members of the Senate. So we have an excellent turnout, both online and the fact that we made sure that the resolution was moved where we could meet hybrid, that we really have no excuse why we can't come up with a quorum. So I'm willing for us to look at the 4 plus the chair. And if members would accept that recommendation, 4 plus the chair, and strive to have at least 2 from the upper house, the 2 from the lower house, plus the chair. But we will work towards making sure that the attendance is much. But we can at least start our meeting. But if we confine it to the upper house and the lower house, and the others are late, we have to wait until we have a quorum. And so that is why I felt just the numbers was important. So in principle, we can make that commitment, but officially a quorum is 4, plus the chair. Go ahead, member.
Standing Order 73F1D in respect of the Caucus of Women Parliamentarians say the quorum of the caucus shall be as the caucus may decide. Right.
Yes.
Yes. Right.
We are in agreement.
Yes.
While you deliberate one-on-one, I'm going to invite Senator Golding Campbell to speak, and then Most Honorable Gillette Holness.
Thank you, Chair. I have no difficulty with either proposal, to tell you the truth. But I have to, if my colleagues will permit me, raise what I think is the elephant in the room. You know, we have come up in a very partisan charged political culture. And I think we have to acknowledge that. several of my colleagues spoke about the question of trust and what we have experienced in the past as a deficit of trust. And I think our speaker, the Most Honorable Juliet Holness, used the words, approaching this with a clean slate. I think we have to make a commitment to that individually and collectively. And in either of the proposals, the fact of the matter is that if one side decides not to attend a meeting, then the meeting cannot be created. And so while I think it is important to have a balance of members from both houses and members from both sides of the political divide, I would want to ask my colleagues to embrace a commitment that, notwithstanding the difficulties of any issue that we will confront, that we will attend meetings as best as we can, and that we will not withdraw our attendance from any meeting on the basis of any particular difficulty with the issue that we are confronting. I think if we don't agree that we're going to come into the room and deal with difficult issues at the outset, that as we proceed and we confront difficult issues, we may have a tendency to fall back into our different sides. And so I am sincerely asking my colleagues, can we today, individually and collectively, make a commitment that, notwithstanding the difficulty of any issue, politically or otherwise, that we will come to our meetings committed to tackle the issues respectfully and to do the work that this caucus has before it. I think, Minister, if we can individually and collectively make that commitment, then either proposal will work.
Thank you, Senator. I will now invite the Most Honorable Juliet Holness to make her comments.
Minister, I had removed my hand because Shireen was on point. Senator Golden said it as I would. I believe in the spirit we should not have too high a quorum. However, especially going into doing our new standing orders and the ability to incorporate the use of technology, having meetings of this nature that are hybrid meetings, I can't see a challenge in us not being able to have a quorum. So I wouldn't go beyond 4 members as the quorum, and I would not want to think we need to stipulate it needs to be from the House or the Senate. I agree with Shireen in that it really needs us to make up our mind that we are all individually and collectively committed to this process. That's the only way it will work.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I will invite now a member, Marlene Malahoo-Ford, to make her comments.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Thank the members for expressing a view on the proposal. The risk that inheres in the proposal that I put is that based on experience, we can have one side of the House boycotting and the other side proceeding. And if the quorum is set, which mandates the presence of both sides, then it will obstruct the business of the caucus. And that is something that we have to be mindful of, even as we are all committing to go forward in a new and different way. But we know that can happen because we have had examples of it. And so I would like to revise the proposal for the quorum, not in respect of the number, even though I do share the concern that if the number is set too high based on experience so far, we may not be able to proceed with the business of the caucus. But this is a historic achievement in a historic parliamentary term. And based on what I have heard members said so far, there is a show of commitment. So while it may be desirable to have a member from each side in each house, that would be the 4 plus the chair, I would simply ask that the quorum be set at 5, including the chair, just for the signaling to the society of the importance of the work. And since the work can also be facilitated by online attendance. You're still reluctant?
It is.
Hi?
There's nothing wrong with the. Okay, let me.
3 would be 11%.
Right, I hear your proposal.
3 would be 11%.
Yeah. All right. I note your proposal. Let me hear from a member Brownberg.
Chair, I was going to ask you, Minister Kamina Johnson had said earlier that her proposal was actually, and she's correct, the third proposal, which was to strike a balance between the two. And so I'd want to hear what your proposal was again, because, I really come back to the point. We're talking about not balance, but presence. It's not balance we're looking for, it's presence. And I think it's important. Honestly, I believe that we have to proceed, yes, in good faith, but if, I'm hoping that whatever is occurring in the conversation, if one side boycotts the conversation, that we would not proceed without taking steps to understand what the issue is. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. Without taking steps to understand what the issues are and to see if we can bring back persons to the table. Because honestly, if we take a decision as a caucus where one side, and I am not, as I speak, thinking of which side it could be any side, yes? If one side boycotts and says, we are not having this conversation, we are in trouble. We should not be prepared to go forward without being courageous enough to reach across the aisle to say, let's discuss this. Bearing in mind what the speaker said earlier about the commitment, and I think it was also Senator Shireen Golding, the commitment we are making at this point in terms of the work of the caucus.
Thank you, Member Brownberg. I recognize Member Johnson-Smith.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I hear Member Brownberg and agree with the aspiration. The challenge that I find is that it presumes that we have reached the promised land and not that we are at the start of the promised land. Meaning, if it is, or start of the journey, if a side were to determine that it was going to boycott, and outreach was made behind the scenes and it was unsuccessful, then that side, if it is, that side was taking a position for whatever reason, whether political or otherwise, strategic, whether it was external pressure or internal intention, whatever the motivation is, if that decision were taken, then one side would have blocked the work of the caucus. And while this is not something that we should anticipate as a regular occurrence, why would we want to presume its impossibility? If it is that the aim is to, one would think that you would hold a sitting and you would seek to promote inclusion and addressing the work of the caucus, that the work of the caucus must be above and governed in a way that will allow it to take priority and trust that members will be present accordingly. I think to legislate in a way that ignores our reality or to put forward rules that tie our hands from another perspective, that I don't want to, anticipating utopia. I think that maybe it's not the best approach. Let's be realistic. Let's try to be pragmatic. Let's make the commitment in a realistic context and one which still continues to be positive and say, let's try to make it work. But let's not set rules that ignore the world in which we have lived thus far. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Johnson-Smith. I think the good thing is that we're discussing procedural matters, and it appears that we may need to look at a procedure that could help us to navigate in the event that an issue arises where we may have a pulling away by a side. I'll wait until the chair, de facto chair, resumes. But is there anyone else who wishes to add her voice on this matter? Senator Golding Campbell.
Thank you, Member Malahouport. I just wanted to say a few last words on the issue. And I agree with the caution that Senator Johnson-Smith is inviting us to consider. You know, the landscape is a landscape, and our history is our history. I think the groundbreaking work of this committee, or the existence of this committee, has to be acknowledged. And I think we have to agree that we have to cocoon this committee, this caucus somewhat. And by that I mean, and it harkens back to what I said before, that we have to affirm the conduct of this committee. We have to affirm the manner in which we're going to approach the work that we have to do. So we are looking at doing work with a gender-focused lens in a legislative capacity. It cannot be beyond us. It ought not to be beyond us to agree at the outset that we will not allow this caucus to be drawn into the kind of partisan divide that many other issues that come before the Parliament are often drawn into. And so I am proposing to my colleagues, whichever of the proposals in terms of a quorum that we agree to, that we also agree that we will commit affirmatively to a process whereby this caucus does not become the sort of politicized, and by that I mean politicized in a divided way, on the issues that we're going to confront. I think we all need to say that, and say that affirmatively, and give that commitment affirmatively, whether we say it or we write it, and then proceed. I think that's an important point. The culture cannot direct this caucus. This caucus must lead us and lead our nation to a different type of way of engaging on legislative issues with that gender-focused lens. May it please you.
Thank you, Member Golding. Member Brownberg, please go ahead.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Madam Chair, while you were out, we were reminded that we were actually at procedural matters. And it being an hour past the time for the next committee to sit, I would want to humbly say, I don't think we have to conclude on the procedural matters today. And if we don't have to, maybe we could take some time to think through the quorum and some other issues around how we resolve some of the issues that we might find ourselves facing.
Thank you, Member Burke. In fact, Member Malahoo Fort and I, we were talking, and we felt maybe at this point we should further these discussions at the next meeting, so we can speak in the margins and to see how we can resolve. Because, you see, Melissa has moved us into a space to clearly define our purpose. Things are not the same. Nobody imagined what happened to Jamaica could have happened to Jamaica under Category 5 hurricane. And we have to think differently, and we have to be more understanding and embracing of each other and each other's opinion, and see how we can work it out. And at one point, I'm listening to the discussions here, and it sounded like we were planning in the future to have some combative relationships, which is not where we're going, right? And we also, I would not expect that positions taken and lines drawn would prevent a sessional committee from being held. So we'll sort that out. So by the next meeting, we will have a clear understanding. And, you know, we must remember that party lines will always come into consideration, but it's the nature of the beast. However, we are here to make a difference. And we are going to show that this caucus of women, this bicameral caucus, will make a difference. Trust and honesty, the quorum, and patience is going to be the hallmark of our work here. I'm going to recognize Member Marlene Malahoo Fort at this time.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think the fact that we are able to air these issues that sometimes operate below the surface as hidden issues is a good sign of progress. And I would just like to add to the work that we would do between this meeting and the next meeting, that we consider a mechanism for dealing with any matter for which deference to the party line may have to be taken. And I'm not saying it should be taken, but it would be remiss of us not to consider that in a competitive political space in a democracy.
Thank you so much. All right. So at this point, oh, I'm sorry.
Just procedurally, to make sure that it is a matter. I didn't want it to stand as just a simple thinking of Member Malahoo Fort. I wanted to actually add my voice to it as seconding that.
Okay, sure. So at the next meeting, we will look at the quorum. It is good to note that of a total of 26 members, 17 attended. From the 19 members of Parliament, 12 members of Parliament, and from the 6 senators, from the 7 senators, 6 in attendance. So that's a good show. It's a good start. And I just want to thank the members for making this first meeting very impactful through their attendance and their input. Now, in relation to just one other procedural matter, would have to do with the chair and the support team. And I would like to recommend and get the support of the members that we look at 2 deputy chairs, chair from the Senate with Kamina Johnson-Smith, and a chair from the lower house, Dr. Brown Burke. And then in my absence, I either want to chair. In my absence, Senator Johnson-Smith, in her absence, if Dr. Brown Burke, and that at the lower house, there'd be support from member Marlene Malahoo Ford, who would also sit in as the deputy chair. And from the Senate, I would like to recommend Senator Scott Motley. And I don't know, we can, you know, I'm just putting my thoughts on the table in terms of from the Senate, from the other side. But I would invite the leader of the Senate, leader of government business in the Senate, who any matter to do with the Senate, I would communicate with her, is to get her thoughts on this.
Chair, perhaps we could give this some thought as well, together with the quorum, meaning out of chamber, just so that we can have a clear understanding of how the 2 levels would work. Not 2 levels as between chambers, but 2 levels as between, I believe, yes, it was just a bifurcation, I believe, of yourself, myself, and Member Brown Burke, and then another level. And I think we should give some thought to that and pull it together in time for the next meeting. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. We will discuss, but I figured in my absence you would, and then, right. But we can discuss that outside of this meeting and decide on the way forward. So, and of course, in terms of regular meetings, I would want to recommend monthly or as the need arises, if that would be accepted. Monthly meetings as...
Chair, there are numerous sessional committees with a lot of work, and while I think monthly would be good, it may go by so quickly, but I should suggest at least a quarter, because you have to do the prep work in between, and you're going to be running the Joint Select Committee on the Domestic Violence Act concurrently. And between one meeting to the next, you need preparation. Members will have to do a number of things. So we can see quarterly at least, so you don't run out of the year without meetings being held. And then we can do other preparation. But you would want a next meeting sooner than later so that we can finalize the procedures and perhaps set a tentative schedule of work in accordance with the terms of the caucus.
Okay, thank you. So let's say the next meeting wouldn't have to be before, which would February, March. Let's say the next meeting could be in March, sometime in March, so we can finalize and settle on the procedures.
Schedule. We prorogue and the new term starts, and then we go into the budget process, including the budget debate. Right.
What?
Right, I'm just saying take into account the other things. But
I don't think we should wait until April to have the next meeting. Right. Yeah, but we can discuss a date to be fixed, and it doesn't have to be a long meeting. It's just to tidy up the procedural part of this meeting, which normally the first meeting is what you do. So sometime we can set a date, sometime in March, looking at the schedule. And then after that, I will accept the recommendation for quarterly or as the need arises, right? Right. Now, so I want to now make my, well, I should ask if any other business. No, if there is no other business, yes, Minister Johnson-Smith.
I'm sorry, members, please indulge me for just placing on the record that the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Foreign Trade did submit its sexual harassment policy from last year. And I just would like, without saying all the other things that I would love to say, I would like it on the record because the matter of ministry's policies was raised earlier. So thank you, Chair.
Yeah.
And I wish us all well.
Good, thank you. Thank you so much. And this is why I'm so excited about this committee, because we will be able to delve deeply into some of these things and to even look at some of the issues that are being faced by the mechanism, the people who operate the mechanisms that we have, you know, put in place, the legislation that we have put in place to get feedback how it works and so on. And maybe we can pick for each meeting 1 or 2 specific areas which we can focus on and get detailed reports on. Thank you, Minister Johnson-Smith. So at this point, I want to say to my fellow parliamentarians, my female parliamentarians from both chambers, and to our television audience, those who have been listening on and watching on PBCJ, you know, I hope they have found this session very informative and that they will be able to get a greater understanding of how, as legislators, we are dealing with the gender agenda. And not just about women, about men, about our boys and our girls. So as we bring this meeting to a close, allow me to speak directly from the heart. What we have built together in this Women's Bicameral Parliamentary Caucus is far more than a committee or a structure on paper. It is a deliberate act of sisterhood, a living commitment, and it transcends party lines, chambers, and personal differences to place the lived experiences of Jamaican women and children at the center of our legislative work. We have forged a space, this is our space, where trust is not assumed but earned through honest conversation, where advocacy for gender equality and the elimination of gender-based violence is not occasional but relentless, where intersectionality is not a theory but the lens through which we see and honor every voice that has too often been sidelined. Our partners, Parliamentarians, UN Women, through the Spotlight Initiative, the Government of Canada, via Global Affairs Canada, Caribbean Women in Leadership, the Institute for Gender and Development Studies, the Bureau of Gender Affairs, and the Houses of Parliament, and the overall guidance and policy of the government of Jamaica have stood with us not as distant observers, but as true collaborators. Those who have provided their technical assistance and belief in our capacity have transformed intention into institutional reality. This caucus is now institutionalized. For that steadfast partnership, I offer my deepest and most sincere gratitude to all. We now stand shoulder to shoulder with parliaments across the globe that have established bicameral women's caucuses and witnessed tangible lasting transformation. Stronger protections, more inclusive laws, safer communities. We anticipate a paradigm shift fueled by gender-responsive leadership that truly reflects the resilience of our people. We take our place as active participants, and the dividends of our unity will be felt in every household, every school, and every street across this nation. Colleagues, the work is urgent. The stakes are high, and the moment is ours. Let us leave this room carrying the same fire we have kindled here today, unyielding compassion for those who suffer injustice, fearless courage to challenge what must change, regardless of party lines, and unbreakable commitment to one another and to the Jamaican people we serve. The road ahead demands our best, but we do not walk it alone. Together, across every divide, we will continue to shape legislation that heals, that protects, and that empowers us. Together, we will build the equitable, dignified Jamaica our daughters and sons deserve. May God grant us the wisdom, the strength, and the grace to carry this work forward with unwavering resolve. Thank you once more for your presence, colleagues, for your passion, and for your partnership this afternoon. So, until we meet again, I encourage you to remain resolute, united, passionate, and fierce in the pursuit of justice. May God bless you all, and God bless Jamaica. We now ask for, if there are no further comments, I recognize Minister Johnson Smith.
So moved.
So the motion has been moved by
Seconded,
Senator.
Minister.
Yeah, Shireen?
Seconded.
Seconded. All right. Moved by Minister Johnson Smith, seconded by Member Dennis Daly, and seconded again by Member Campbell, Golding Campbell. And so, at this point, colleagues, this session stands adjourned. Wonderful meeting. Thank you. And those who are here for the Domestic Violence Committee, I invite you.
During afternoon tea,
The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency with kind support of NIA and USAID.
Criminal minds think they are cunning. The major organized crime and anti-corruption agency have them running.